The wind didn't howl. That would have been merciful. Instead, it cut, low and mean, the kind of cold that found the gaps in your coat and reminded you that nature didn't care if you lived or died. It just kept moving. Mara Whitlock had stopped feeling her fingers 2 miles back. She didn't tell Eli. The boy was 6 years old and already carried enough weight in those dark eyes that used to light up when his father came home from the mine, boots caked in red dust, smelling like sulfur and sweat, and something Mara could only describe as alive. Thomas had been alive in every way that mattered, until the mountain took him, until Silas Granger's greed buried him under 10,000 tons of rock and lies. "Mama?" Eli's voice cracked through the wind. "Mama, I can't feel my toes." Mara forced her legs to keep moving. Left foot, right foot. The snow came up past her knees now, each step a negotiation with a body that had already given up. Her left leg, the one she'd injured falling down a ravine 3 days ago while running from Granger's men, screamed with every movement. Not the sharp pain of a fresh wound. Worse. The deep grinding ache that meant something inside had torn wrong and wasn't going to heal right. "We're almost there," she lied. They weren't almost anywhere. The road, if you could call this frozen trench a road, stretched ahead into white nothing. No landmarks, no cabin smoke, just skeletal trees clawing at a sky the color of old bruises. Eli stumbled. Mara grabbed his coat, too thin, patched 3 times, the stitching her own clumsy work, and pulled him upright. He looked at her with those eyes, Thomas's eyes. "I'm okay," he whispered. He wasn't, neither was she. Mara's breath came in ragged clouds. Her leg buckled again, and this time she went down hard, knee first into the snow. Pain exploded up her thigh, white-hot and vicious. She bit down on her lip until she tasted copper. "Mama! I'm fine." She wasn't fine. She was dying. They both were. Just need a second, but a second turned into 10, then 20. Her leg refused to cooperate. The muscle had finally said enough, and no amount of willpower could argue with torn tissue and bone-deep cold. Eli crouched beside her, his small hands brushing snow off her coat. "Mama, get up. Please get up." She tried, pushed herself up on her good leg, got halfway to standing, and her body just quit. She collapsed back into the snow, and for the first time since Thomas died, Mara felt something she'd refused to acknowledge for months. Terror. Not the kind that makes you fight, the kind that whispers, "This is how it ends. Listen to me." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. She grabbed Eli's face with numb hands. "You see that bend in the road, past those 3 birch trees?" He nodded, tears freezing on his cheeks. "There's got to be a cabin. Someone, anyone. You run, you hear me? You run and you bang on that door until someone answers. I'm not leaving you." Eli, "No." His voice broke. "Papa left and didn't come back. I can't." Mara pulled him close, pressed her frozen lips to his forehead. "Your papa didn't choose to leave. But if you stay here, we both die. If you go, maybe someone can help. What if nobody's there? Then you keep going. You don't stop. You remember your name. You remember mine. And you survive." She pushed him back, looked him dead in the eye. "You're a Whitlock. We don't quit, even when we should." Eli's whole body shook. Cold, fear, grief, all of it tangled up in a 6-year-old frame that shouldn't have to carry any of it. But he nodded. Once. Firm. "I'll come back," he said. "I promise." "I know." She didn't know. She didn't know anything except that she was watching her son disappear into the storm, his small shape swallowed by white, and she couldn't follow. Mara let herself sink back into the snow. The cold didn't feel so bad now, almost comfortable. Her leg had stopped screaming. Everything had stopped screaming. She reached into her coat, fingers clumsy, barely working, and pulled out the deed. Oilcloth wrapped, sealed with wax that had cracked during the fall down the ravine. Thomas's handwriting on the envelope, "Family Land, Whitlock Holdings, 1879. 8 years ago, when they'd filed the claim. When the mine was just a dream, and Thomas was just a man with rough hands and a good heart who promised her they'd build something real. Silas Granger had stolen it all. The land, the mine, the lives. And he'd done it with forged papers and bought officials, and the kind of cruelty that came easy to men who'd never gone hungry. Mara had stolen it back. Breaking into Granger's office 2 weeks ago had been suicide. She'd known it going in. But desperation makes you stupid, and widow's grief makes you dangerous. She'd waited until his Friday night card game, the one where he got drunk and loud and distracted, and she'd slipped through the back window of his land office like a shadow. The deed had been in his safe, along with a ledger. A ledger that documented every bribe, every forged signature, every deliberate safety violation that had led to the collapse. Names, dates, amounts. Proof that Silas Granger had murdered 23 men for profit and called it an accident. Thomas's name was in that ledger, highlighted, circled, with a note in Granger's handwriting, problem, handle it. 3 days later, the tunnel collapsed. Thomas never came home. Mara pressed the deed to her chest. Her breathing had gone shallow. The edges of her vision flickered gray. She'd almost done it, almost gotten the proof to someone who mattered, but almost didn't count for much when you were bleeding out in the snow with no rescue coming. Somewhere in the distance, she heard barking. Dogs, maybe. Or her mind breaking down, conjuring sounds to make dying less lonely. Her eyes closed. But Rowan Creed was splitting wood when the knocking started. Not normal knocking. Frantic, desperate. The kind that said emergency before a word was spoken. He drove the axe into the stump and straightened, vertebrae cracking in the cold. The knocking kept going. Small fists, rapid, uneven. Rowan crossed the cabin in 4 strides and yanked the door open. A boy stood on his porch. 6, maybe 7 years old, covered in snow. Shaking so hard his teeth rattled, eyes wide with panic. "Please," the boy gasped. "Please, my mama, she can't walk anymore." Rowan didn't ask questions. He grabbed his coat off the hook, shoved his arms through the sleeves, and stepped into the storm. "Show me." The boy took off running. Rowan followed. He hadn't spoken to another person in 4 months. Hadn't been to town in longer. The last conversation he'd had, if you could call it that, was with Boone Mercer, the supply runner who dropped off goods twice a year and respected silence. Before that, nothing. Just wind and trees and the ghosts that lived in the spaces between. Rowan preferred ghosts. They didn't ask him why he lived alone. Didn't look at him with pity. Didn't remind him of everything he'd buried. But a kid banging on his door in the middle of a blizzard, begging for help, that wasn't something you ignored. Not if you wanted to keep calling yourself human. The boy led him down the road, slipping in snowdrifts, falling twice. Rowan caught him the second time, kept a hand on his shoulder. "How far?" "Not far, just past the trees. She said someone would be there." They rounded the bend. Rowan saw her. A woman, collapsed in the snow, face down, not moving. He closed the distance in seconds, dropped to his knees beside her, pressed 2 fingers to her neck, pulse. Faint, thready, but there. "Mama!" The boy grabbed her coat, shaking her. "Mama, wake up! I got help! You have to wake up!" Rowan looked at the woman, young, maybe 30, dark hair matted with ice, blood on her temple, old blood, frozen. Her left leg bent wrong, her hands blue. She wasn't going to wake up, not out here. He slid his arms under her, one beneath her shoulders, one under her knees, and lifted. She didn't weigh much, too light. The kind of light that came from missing too many meals. The boy stared at him, tears streaming. Is she? She's alive." Rowan's voice came out rougher than he intended. 3 years of not using it had turned it into gravel. "But we need to move, now." He started walking. Fast. The boy jogged beside him, struggling to keep up. Rowan didn't slow down. Couldn't. Every second out here was a second closer to losing her. The cabin appeared through the snow, small, solid smoke rising from the chimney. Rowan kicked the door open, carried the woman inside, and laid her on the floor near the fire. The boy hovered, hands fluttering uselessly. "What do we do? What?" "Get that blanket, the heavy one by the bed." Rowan pointed without looking. He was already working, pulling off her gloves, checking her fingers for frostbite. Bad. Not black yet, but close. Her face was waxen, lips gray. The boy dragged the blanket over. Rowan wrapped her tight, then started unlacing her boots. Her left foot was swollen. The boot came off wrong. When he touched her calf, she made a sound, low, pained, barely conscious, broken, or close to it. He looked at the boy. "What's your name?" "Eli." "Eli, I need you to listen. Your mama's hurt bad. I'm going to help her, but you need to stay out of the way. Can you do that?" Eli nodded, eyes locked on his mother. "Good." Rowan turned back to the woman. He moved methodically, checking airways, breathing, circulation. Basics. Things he'd learned a lifetime ago from a field medic during a skirmish he didn't like remembering. The kind of knowledge you never forgot, even when you wished you could. Her breathing stabilized. Color started creeping back into her face. Just a little. Enough. Rowan sat back on his heels, exhaled. She'd live. Probably. If infection didn't set in. If the leg wasn't worse than it looked. If a dozen other things didn't go wrong. He glanced at Eli. The boy had wrapped his arms around himself, standing in a puddle of melted snow, watching his mother like she might disappear if he looked away. "When's the last time you ate?" Rowan asked. Eli blinked. I don't know. Yesterday? Day before? Maybe 3 days? 3 days. Rowan stood, moved to the kitchen. He pulled out bread, stale but edible, cheese, dried meat, poured water from the pitcher into a tin cup, brought it all over and shoved it into Eli's hands. "Eat." "But Mama, eat. You can't help her if you pass out." Eli hesitated, then took the bread. His hands shook so bad he almost dropped it. He bit into it like he'd forgotten what food tasted like. Rowan crouched beside the woman again. Her breathing had evened out. Good. He needed to check the leg, but moving her now could do more harm. Better to let her warm up first, get some heat back into her body. Then he could assess. He stood, grabbed more wood, fed the fire. The cabin filled with warmth, not comfortable. Rowan didn't do comfortable, but enough to keep the cold from winning. Eli finished the bread, started on the cheese. He ate like a starving animal. Fast, mechanical, no enjoyment, just fuel. "What happened?" Rowan asked. He kept his voice neutral, non-threatening. The kid was already scared enough. "We were running," Eli said between bites. "Mama said we had to keep moving. Said bad men were looking for us." Bad men. Men who work for Mr. Granger. The name landed like a stone in still water. Rowan went very still. "Silas Granger?" Eli nodded. Of course. Of course it was Silas Granger. The man owned half the territory and wanted the other half. Land baron, mine owner, and general piece of human garbage who bought sheriffs the way other men bought cattle. Rowan had met him once, years ago, before everything. Granger had tried to buy Rowan's land. A generous offer, he'd called it. Rowan had told him to leave and not come back. Granger hadn't liked that. Men like Granger didn't understand the word no. "Why's Granger after you?" Rowan asked. Eli looked at his mother, then back at Rowan. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Mama took something important. She said it's the only thing that can stop him." "Stop him from what?" "From hurting more people. From getting away with what he did to Papa." Rowan's jaw tightened. "What happened to your Papa?" "He died. In the mine. Mama said it wasn't an accident. Said Mr. Granger killed him." The boy said it so matter-of-factly, like he'd already processed the worst truth a kid could learn and come out the other side hollow. Rowan didn't respond. What could he say? That the world was cruel and men like Granger always won? The kid already knew that. He looked at the woman, Eli's mother, lying unconscious by the fire. Thin, battered, running on nothing but desperation and a mother's refusal to let her child die. She'd stolen something from Granger, something important enough to run, important enough to risk everything, which meant Granger would be looking for her. And when men like Granger looked for something, they didn't stop until they found it, or burned down everything in the way trying. Rowan stood, walked to the window, looked out at the storm. Snow came down in sheets now, full whiteout. No one was traveling in this. Not tonight. But tomorrow? Day after? He turned back. Eli had finished eating and curled up next to his mother, one small hand resting on her arm. The kid's eyes were closing, fighting it, losing. "You can sleep," Rowan said. "She's safe. You're safe." "Promise?" Eli's voice was barely audible. Rowan didn't make promises. Promises were lies you told yourself when you wanted to believe the world was kinder than it was. He'd made promises before, to a woman with laughing eyes and a little boy who'd called him Papa. He'd promised them safety, security, a future. He'd buried them both in the same week. But this kid, this scared, exhausted, half-starved kid who'd run through a blizzard to save his mother, deserved something better than the truth. Yeah, Rowan said, I promise. Eli's eyes closed. 10 seconds later, he was out. Rowan stood there in the firelight, looking at two people he didn't know, who'd brought trouble he didn't want, into a life he'd carefully built to include nobody. He should have left them on the road, should have pointed the kid toward town and shut the door, let someone else deal with it. But he hadn't. And now they were here, in his cabin, under his roof, which meant, whether he liked it or not, they'd become his problem. Rowan walked to the cabinet, pulled out the bottle of whiskey he saved for nights when the ghosts got too loud, poured 2 fingers, stared at it, then poured it back and put the bottle away. He had a feeling he'd need to stay sharp. Mara woke to warmth. That was wrong. She'd been freezing, dying. The cold had wrapped around her like a living thing, pulling her down, and she'd let it because fighting hurt too much. But now, warmth, heat, the crackle of fire. Her eyes opened. Wooden ceiling, rough beams, smoke stains. Not her ceiling, not anywhere she recognized. Panic spiked. She tried to sit up. Her body screamed in protest. Leg, ribs, everything. She collapsed back with a gasp. Easy. A voice, male, deep, flat. She turned her head. A man sat in a chair near the fire, whittling something. He didn't look at her, just kept working the knife, slow and deliberate. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair, longer than was practical. Beard, face like it had been carved with the same knife he was using, all hard angles and no softness. He wore a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms roped with old scars. Eli? Mara croaked. Her throat felt like she'd swallowed glass. Where's... Sleeping. The man nodded toward the corner. Mara followed his gaze. Eli, curled up in a pile of blankets, chest rising and falling, alive. Relief hit so hard she almost blacked out again. He's fine, the man said. Ate, rested, warmed up. Mara closed her eyes, forced herself to breathe. Who are you? Rowan? That's your first name or last? Both. She opened her eyes again. He still wasn't looking at her. Where am I? My cabin. How did I... Your boy found me. Brought me to you. I carried you back. Short sentences. No elaboration. Like words cost money, and he was broke. Mara tried sitting up again, slower this time. Her left leg throbbed, but it was wrapped tight in clean cloth, splinted. Someone had set it. Not perfectly, but well enough. You do this? She gestured at the leg. Yeah. You a doctor? No. Then how? Learned field medicine, long time ago. Mara studied him. He still wouldn't look at her, just kept whittling. The knife moved in smooth, practiced strokes. Whatever he was making, it wasn't random, deliberate, focused. Thank you, she said. He didn't respond. I mean it. You saved our lives. Don't thank me yet. Why not? Finally, he looked at her. His eyes were gray, not stormy gray or mysterious gray, just empty, like someone had scooped out everything that made a person human and left the shell behind. Because, he said, the boy told me you're running from Silas Granger. Mara's breath caught. What else did he tell you? That you took something Granger wants back. She didn't answer, didn't know what to say. This man, Rowan, he'd saved them. But that didn't mean he was safe. Granger bought people, threatened people, broke people. And a man living alone in the mountains, avoiding civilization? That screamed someone with his own problems. I didn't steal it, she said finally. It was mine. He took it first. That why you're running? That's why we're alive. Rowan went back to whittling. Storm's not letting up. You're stuck here at least 2 more days, maybe 3. Then we'll leave after. We won't bring trouble to your door. Trouble's already here. I said we'll leave. You can barely sit up. Kid's half starved. You think you're walking out of here in 2 days? I've done worse. I don't doubt it. He gestured at her leg. But physics doesn't care how tough you are. That leg needs at least a week before you can put weight on it, maybe longer. Mara's jaw tightened. We can't stay that long. Why not? Because Granger doesn't quit. He'll send men, and when they find us here, they'll burn this place to the ground with you in it. Rowan paused his whittling, looked at her. Let them come. Something in the way he said it, flat, emotionless, like he was commenting on the weather, sent a chill through her that had nothing to do with cold. You don't know him, Mara said. You don't know what he's capable of. I know men like him. Rowan went back to his knife. They think money and fear make them untouchable. They're wrong. He's killed people. So have I. The words hung in the air. Not a threat, not a boast, just fact. Mara stared at him. Rowan kept whittling. Who are you? She asked quietly. Someone who wants to be left alone. Then why help us? For the first time, something flickered across his face. Not quite emotion, just a crack in the mask. Kid knocked on my door. What was I supposed to do? Most people would have pointed us toward town. I'm not most people. Clearly. Silence stretched. The fire popped. Wind rattled the windows. Somewhere outside, the storm kept raging. Mara shifted, winced. Everything hurt. She reached under the blanket, felt for the deed. Gone. Panic flooded her. Where is it? The envelope I had. Where? Ugh. Mantle. Rowan nodded toward the fireplace. Dried it out, didn't open it. Mara looked. There it was. Oilcloth wrapping, a little worse for wear, but intact. You didn't look inside? She asked. None of my business. It could be anything. Could be, I don't know, could be dangerous. So could you. He shrugged. Still pulled you out of the snow. Mara didn't know what to make of this man. Didn't know if she should trust him or fear him or both. He'd saved their lives, but there was something in his eyes, that emptiness, that suggested a man who'd already lost everything and had nothing left to protect. Those were the most dangerous kind. The boy called you Mama, Rowan said. I am his mother. Called someone else Papa, past tense. Mara's throat tightened. My husband died 4 months ago. I'm sorry. Are you? No. Rowan's honesty was almost refreshing. I don't know you, didn't know him, but I know what it's like to lose someone. So I'm sorry you're going through it. You lost someone, Mara said, not a question. Everyone loses someone. Not like you did. He looked at her then. Really looked. And for just a second she saw it. The weight he carried. The reason he lived alone. The thing that had carved away his humanity and left him hollow. No, he said quietly. Not like I did. They didn't speak after that. Rowan finished his whittling, a small horse, she realized. Crude but careful. He set it on the table, stood, stretched. You should sleep, he said. Body needs rest to heal. Where will you sleep? Chair's fine. That's not... Chair is fine. Each word deliberate, conversation over. Mara lay back down. Her leg throbbed. Her ribs ached. But she was warm, dry, alive. She looked at Eli, still sleeping peacefully, then at the deed on the mantle, then at the man, Rowan, settling into a chair that couldn't possibly be comfortable for someone his size. Thank you, she said again. I know you don't want it, but thank you. Rowan didn't answer, just closed his eyes. Within minutes, his breathing evened out. But Mara watched him for a long time, wondering what kind of man saves strangers without asking for anything in return. Wondering what it cost him. And wondering, when Granger's men finally came, if he'd regret opening that door. Morning came gray and cold, the kind of dawn that never really arrived, just shifted from black to less black. Mara woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving around the cabin with practiced quiet. She opened her eyes. Rowan stood at the stove, pouring water from a kettle into 2 tin cups. He moved like someone used to being alone, efficient, no wasted motion, no noise. Eli was still asleep, buried under blankets. Mara tried to sit up. Her leg immediately reminded her why that was a bad idea. She bit back a gasp, but Rowan heard it anyway. He glanced over his shoulder. Don't move yet, he said. Need to check the leg first. He brought over one of the cups. Coffee. Black, strong enough to strip paint. Can you sit? He asked. Can I stop you if I say no? Probably not. She took the coffee, used her good leg to push herself into a sitting position. The world tilted, then steadied. Her head pounded. When had she last had water? Real water, not melted snow? Rowan crouched beside her, started unwrapping the splint. His hands were careful, deliberate. Not gentle, there was nothing gentle about this man, but precise. Like he'd done this before, many times. The wrapping came off. Mara looked at her leg and wished she hadn't. Swollen, mottled purple and yellow. A gash across her calf that someone, Rowan, had stitched with black thread. You sewed me up, she said. Couldn't leave it open. When? Last night. You were out cold. Mara stared at the neat row of stitches. Not pretty, but functional. Where'd you learn to do that? War. Which one? Does it matter? She supposed it didn't. Every man out here had fought in something. Indian wars, range wars, the big one back east that nobody wanted to talk about anymore. Violence followed men like shadows, and the frontier attracted the ones who'd seen too much of it. Rowan pressed his fingers along her shin, watching her face. She kept it blank, refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. Bone's not broken, he said, but you tore something in the muscle. Maybe the tendon. Hard to tell without cutting you open, and I'm not doing that. How long before I can walk? Walk? Week. Maybe less if you're lucky. And if I'm not lucky? 2 weeks. Could be longer if you push it too hard too fast. He started rewrapping the leg. You try to run on this now, you'll cripple yourself permanent. Can't stay here 2 weeks. Why not? I told you, Granger, shit. Storm's still going, Rowan interrupted. Nobody's coming through that. You got time. Time for what? To heal, to rest, to figure out what the hell you're going to do next. Mara wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he didn't understand, that waiting meant dying, that Granger had eyes everywhere and men who'd kill for a whiskey token. But her leg throbbed, her head swam, and Eli was still asleep because for the first time in weeks, he felt safe enough to actually rest. So she drank the terrible coffee and watched Rowan finish wrapping her leg and hated how much she needed this. Needed him. Needed the shelter and the fire and the illusion that they could stay here and be forgotten. The deed, she said. I should explain. Don't need to. You saved our lives. You deserve to know what you're mixed up in. Rowan stood, walked to the window, looked out at the endless white. I'm not mixed up in anything. You're here. Storm ends, you leave. Simple. It's not simple. Nothing about this is simple. Then make it simple. Mara set the coffee down. Her hands were shaking. From cold or fear or exhaustion, she didn't know anymore. My husband owned land, mining claim. Small operation, but honest. We filed the deed 8 years ago. Everything legal, everything proper. Rowan didn't turn around, just kept watching the storm. Thomas, my husband, he found something, Mara continued. Not gold, evidence. Records showing Silas Granger had been cutting corners in his big mine, skipping safety supports, ignoring engineer reports, all to save money and pull more ore. Let me guess, Rowan said. Someone found out your husband knew. 3 days after Thomas told me about it, the tunnel collapsed. Mara's voice went flat. 23 men died. Thomas was one of them. Granger called it an accident, paid out settlements to the families, just enough to keep people quiet. But you didn't stay quiet. I couldn't afford to. Week after the funeral, Granger's lawyers showed up, said our land claim was fraudulent, said the deed had forged signatures, said we owed back fees and penalties that would take 5 lifetimes to pay. Let me guess, Rowan said again. He offered to buy you out for pennies. He didn't offer, he took it. Judge signed the order before I even knew there was a hearing. I lost the land, the house, everything. Eli and I ended up in a boarding house that charged more than I could make washing clothes. So you stole the deed back. I broke into his office and took what was mine. Mara's jaw tightened, and I found something else. A ledger. Hidden in his safe. It had everything, every bribe, every payoff, every violation. Thomas's name was in there, circled, with a note that said, handle it. Rowan turned around slowly. His face showed nothing, but something shifted in those gray eyes. You have proof Granger killed your husband. Yes. And now he wants it back. He wants me dead. The proof is just a bonus. Silence settled over the cabin like snow. Heavy. Suffocating. Rowan walked to the fireplace, picked up the oilcloth package, turned it over in his hands. You know what this means? It means Granger can't let me live. It means you can't run forever. Eventually he'll find you, and when he does, I know. Mara cut him off. I've known since the night I broke in, but Eli deserves better than dying in the snow because his father tried to do the right thing. Rowan looked at the sleeping boy, then back at Mara. What's your plan? Get to the territorial attorney, Edwin Vale. He's in Red Creek, 3 days' ride from here. If I can get the evidence to him. Vale's honest? As honest as they come out here. That's not saying much. It's all I've got. Rowan set the package back on the mantel, poured himself coffee, stood there drinking it, staring at nothing. You could turn us in, Mara said quietly. Granger probably has a bounty out. You could collect it. We'd be gone. Your life goes back to normal. I don't want money. Then what do you want? He looked at her. I want to be left alone. Then why pull me out of the snow? Rowan didn't answer, just drank his coffee. The silence stretched until Mara couldn't stand it anymore. You lost someone, she said, a long time ago. That's why you're out here. Leave it alone. Was it the war? I said leave it alone. But Mara didn't leave it alone. Maybe it was the coffee, or the exhaustion, or the fact that this stranger had saved her life and she needed to understand why. You have a cabin, wood stove, furniture. This wasn't always just you. Rowan's hand tightened on the cup. For a second she thought he might throw it. Instead, he just set it down very carefully and walked to the door. Where are you going? Mara asked. Out. Storm still. The door opened and closed. He was gone. Mara sat there in the sudden quiet, feeling like she'd just kicked something wounded. She looked at Eli, still sleeping, looked at the deed on the mantel, looked at the door Rowan had just walked through into a blizzard because she couldn't keep her mouth shut. Good job, she muttered. Real smart. She tried to stand. Her leg immediately vetoed that plan. She collapsed back onto the blanket, swearing under her breath. Helpless. That's what she was. Helpless and stupid and entirely dependent on a man who clearly wanted nothing to do with them. Eli stirred. His eyes opened. For a moment he looked confused. Then he saw Mara and relief flooded his face. Mama? I'm here, baby. He scrambled over to her, wrapped his arms around her neck. She held him tight, breathing in the smell of him, little boy sweat and wood smoke, and something uniquely Eli. I thought you were dead, he whispered. I know. I'm sorry. The man, Rowan, he saved you. He did. Is he coming back? Mara looked at the door. Snow blew through the cracks. I don't know. But 20 minutes later, the door opened and Rowan walked back in covered in snow. He didn't look at Mara, just shook off his coat, hung it up, and went back to the stove like nothing happened. Eli watched him with wide eyes. Are you okay? Fine, Rowan said. Were you cold out there? Used to it. Did you go far? No. Eli seemed to accept this. He crawled over to where Rowan was standing. Can I help? Rowan looked down at him. Something flickered across his face. Help with what? Whatever you're doing. Making breakfast. You know how to cook? Mama taught me some things. Then you can help. And just like that, Eli was standing on a chair next to Rowan, learning how to crack eggs into a pan without getting shells everywhere. Rowan didn't smile, didn't soften, but he was patient, showed Eli what to do, let him try, corrected him when he messed up without making him feel bad about it. Mara watched them. Her throat felt tight. Thomas used to do that, teach Eli things. How to tie knots, how to identify rocks, how to whistle through his fingers, all the small things fathers pass to sons. And here was this stranger, this hard, broken man who lived alone in the mountains, doing the same thing without being asked. They ate breakfast in silence. Eggs, bread, some kind of dried meat that was probably older than Eli but tasted good enough. Mara ate slowly, trying not to think about how many meals they'd missed, trying not to think about how good it felt to be warm and fed, trying not to think about what happened when the storm ended. After breakfast, Eli asked if he could play. Rowan pointed at a crate in the corner. Carved some things a while back. Help yourself. Eli dug into the crate like it was Christmas. Pulled out wooden animals. Horses, bears, wolves, deer, each one carved with the same careful precision Rowan brought to everything else. Did you make all these? Eli asked. Yeah. They're good. There's something to do. Eli sat on the floor, setting up the animals in some kind of game only he understood. Rowan watched him for a moment, then turned away. But Mara saw it. The look on his face, pain, old, deep. She waited until Eli was absorbed in his game, then spoke quietly. I'm sorry, for earlier. I shouldn't have pushed. Rowan didn't answer right away. He was cleaning the pan, scrubbing it harder than necessary. You were right, he said finally. There were other people here, long time ago. Your family? Wife, son. Son was about his age. He nodded toward Eli. What happened? Winter fever. Swept through the valley 7 years ago. Killed half the settlement, including them. His voice was completely flat. No emotion, like he was talking about the weather. I was in town getting supplies, came back 3 days later. They were already gone. Mara didn't know what to say. What could anyone say to that? I stayed, Rowan continued. Don't know why. Maybe I thought I deserved to be here. Where it happened. Maybe I was just too tired to leave. He set the pan down. Been here ever since, alone. And that's how I wanted it. Until we showed up. Until you showed up. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. He turned to face her. You did what you had to do. For him. He nodded at Eli. That's what parents do. They keep their kids alive, no matter what. Is that what you would have done? I tried. Wasn't enough. The weight in those words could have crushed stone. Mara understood it, that guilt, that feeling of failing the one person who needed you most. She carried the same weight. Every mother who'd lost a husband, every widow who watched her child go hungry, they all carried it. You can't save everyone, she said. I know. But you saved us. Rowan looked at her, really looked, and for the first time since she woke up, she saw something human in those gray eyes. Something that wasn't quite dead yet. Yeah, he said. I guess I did. The storm raged for 2 more days. Mara healed, slowly. Rowan changed her bandages twice a day, checked for infection, made her drink water even when she wasn't thirsty. He was gruff about it, no bedside manner, but effective. Eli followed Rowan everywhere, asking questions, watching him work, learning how to split kindling without losing fingers, how to read weather from the color of the sky, how to tell time by the angle of the sun when there was no sun to see. Rowan answered the questions with the same flat delivery he used for everything. But he answered them. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, Mara caught him looking at Eli the way you look at something you'd forgotten existed, like hope. On the 3rd morning, the storm broke. The wind died. The snow stopped. The world went silent in that particular way it does after a blizzard, like nature was holding its breath. Rowan opened the door. Bright white everywhere. 4 feet of fresh snow. The road was completely gone. We're snowed in, he said. Probably another 3 days before it's passable. Mara's stomach dropped. 3 more days. 3 more days of Granger getting closer. 3 more days of borrowed time. But there was nothing to do about it. The snow was there. Physics was physics. So they waited. Rowan spent the time teaching Eli things. How to make rope from tree bark. How to set a snare for rabbits. How to keep a fire going in wet conditions. Survival skills. The kind of knowledge that meant the difference between living and dying out here. Mara watched them from her spot by the fire. Her leg was getting better. She could put weight on it now without wanting to scream. Rowan had made her a crutch from a branch, crude but functional. She practiced walking, short distances at first, then longer. Her leg burned. The muscle screamed, but it held. On the 4th night, they sat around the fire after dinner. Eli was playing with the carved animals again. Rowan was whittling something new. Mara was trying not to think about tomorrow, when the road would be clear enough to leave. Tell me about Red Creek, Rowan said suddenly. Mara looked up. What about it? How far? What the roads are like, where Vale's office is. Why? Because you're going there. Might as well know what you're walking into. Mara hesitated. 3 days ride, 4 on foot with a bad leg. The main road goes through Coulter's Pass, but Granger has men watching it. There's a back route through the timber, but it's rough, steep, easy to get lost. And Vale's office? Center of town, next to the courthouse. Can't miss it. Rowan nodded, kept whittling. Why are you asking? Mara said. Just curious. You're not a curious man. He looked at her. No, I'm not. Then what are you thinking? I'm thinking you can't walk to Red Creek on that leg. Not through timber, not in winter. I'll manage. You'll die. Then I'll die trying. And the boy? That stopped her, because Eli was the one thing she couldn't argue around. If she died, Eli died. Simple math. I don't have a choice, she said quietly. There's always a choice. Not for me. Not anymore. Rowan was quiet for a long time. The fire popped. Eli made quiet sound effects for his game. Horses neighing, bears growling. Normal kid sounds. The kind Thomas would have loved to hear. I have a horse, Rowan said. Mara blinked. What? Horse. In the shed out back. Old but steady. Could carry 2 people to Red Creek if you didn't push too hard. You're offering to lend us your horse? I'm offering to take you to Red Creek. The words hung in the air like smoke. Mara stared at him. You can't be serious. Do I look like I joke? But you said you wanted to be left alone. I do want to be left alone. Rowan set down his knife. But I also know what happens to people who run from men like Granger with no help. They don't make it. And I didn't pull you out of the snow just to watch you die trying to walk 3 days through winter timber. This isn't your fight. No, it's not. Then why? Rowan looked at Eli. The boy had stopped playing, was listening. Those dark eyes fixed on Rowan with something like hope. Because, Rowan said slowly, sometimes you get a second chance to do the right thing. And I'm not wasting this one. Mara felt something crack in her chest. Not break, just crack. A little light getting through. If you do this, she said, Granger will come after you too. Let him. He has men, guns, money, power. I know. You could die. We all die. That's not... Listen. Rowan's voice cut through her protest. I've been dead for 7 years. Walking around. Breathing? But dead. Maybe this is how I stop being dead. Maybe it's not. But I'm doing it anyway. Eli spoke up, his voice small. Are you really taking us to Red Creek? Rowan looked at him. Yeah, kid, I am. Will we be safe there? Safer than here. Will you stay with us? Rowan hesitated. That question clearly caught him off guard. I don't know. Okay. Eli seemed to accept this. He went back to his game, but Mara saw it. The way Rowan watched the boy, the way something in his face softened just a fraction, the way 7 years of ice started to crack. We leave at first light, Rowan said. Get as far as we can before anyone knows we're gone. What about supplies? I've got enough. Water, dried food, ammunition. It'll get us there. Ammunition? Men with guns come looking for you. I'd rather have something to shoot back with. Mara couldn't argue with that logic. When we get there, after I give Vale the evidence, you don't have to stay. You can come back here. Go back to your life. We'll see. I mean it. You've done enough. Rowan stood, stretched, his back cracked. You should sleep. Long ride tomorrow. Rowan? Sleep, Mara. He said her name for the first time. It sounded strange in his voice, rusty, like he wasn't used to using names. We'll talk more on the road. He walked to his chair, settled in. Within minutes, his breathing evened out. Mara lay back down, pulled the blanket up. Eli crawled over to her, pressed against her side. She wrapped an arm around him. Mama? He whispered. Yeah, baby? I like him. Rowan? Yeah. He's sad, but he's nice. He is sad. Do you think he'll be less sad if he helps us? Mara didn't know how to answer that. Didn't know if helping them would heal Rowan or break him worse. But she knew one thing. For the first time since Thomas died, she didn't feel completely alone. Maybe, she said. Maybe he will. Eli fell asleep. Mara lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the cabin settle, thinking about the journey ahead. 3 days to Red Creek. 3 days through hostile territory with a broken leg and a 6-year-old and a man who'd been hiding from the world for 7 years. It was a terrible plan. It was the only plan they had. She looked at the deed on the mantel. Proof of everything. Evidence that could bring down Silas Granger and expose the corruption that had killed Thomas and 22 other men. If they could get it to Vale. If Granger didn't catch them first. If the winter didn't kill them. A lot of ifs. But Mara had learned something in the months since Thomas died. Sometimes all you had were terrible odds and stubborn refusal to quit. Sometimes that was enough. She closed her eyes. Tried to sleep. Failed. Eventually exhaustion dragged her under anyway. Her last thought before sleep took her was of Rowan, sitting in that chair, keeping watch over 2 people he barely knew because once upon a time he'd failed to save the people he loved. And maybe that's what redemption looked like. Not grand gestures or hero moments. Just one broken person trying to keep other broken people alive long enough to make it to tomorrow. Outside, the wind picked up again. Not a storm. Just wind. The mountain breathing. And somewhere out there, beyond the snow and the trees and the frozen roads, Silas Granger's men were looking for them. The clock was running. Dawn broke cold and clear, the kind of morning that hurt to breathe. Rowan was already up, moving through the cabin with that same quiet efficiency. He'd saddled the horse, a gray mare with white socks and patient eyes, and loaded supplies into worn saddlebags. Mara woke to the smell of coffee and something else. Bacon. Real bacon, not the dried jerky they'd been eating. "You're wasting supplies," she said, pushing herself upright. "Can't ride on an empty stomach." Rowan didn't turn around. Especially not the kid. Eli was still asleep, curled in a ball under the blankets. His face looked peaceful, young. For a moment he wasn't a boy running for his life, just a kid having normal dreams. Mara hated to wake him. Hated that they had to leave this warm cabin and go back out into the cold where men with guns were hunting them. But staying meant dying slow, and she'd promised Thomas she'd keep their son alive no matter what. She reached over, shook Eli's shoulder gently. "Time to get up, baby." His eyes opened. Confused at first, then awareness crept back in. The fear. The knowledge that they were running again. "Do we have to go?" he asked quietly. "Yeah, we do." "Can't we stay here with Rowan?" Mara looked at the man by the stove. His back was to them, but she knew he'd heard. "This isn't our home, Eli. We can't just stay." "Why not?" "Because people are looking for us, and we need to finish what we started." Eli sat up, rubbed his eyes. "Is Rowan really coming with us?" "He is." "Good." The relief in his voice cut through Mara like a knife. "I don't want him to be alone anymore." Rowan turned around then, 2 plates in his hands. His face showed nothing, but something flickered in those gray eyes. Something that might have been surprise or pain or both. They ate quickly. The bacon was good, probably the last decent food they'd have for days. Rowan watched them eat with that same unreadable expression, then handed Mara a bundle. "Extra clothes," he said. "Men's, but they'll keep you warm. Better than what you're wearing." Mara took the bundle. The shirt and pants were worn but clean, probably his wife's work clothes from before. She started to say something, then stopped. What could she say? Thank you felt inadequate. Everything felt inadequate. She changed behind a blanket Rowan hung up for privacy. The clothes were too big, but he was right. They were warmer, thicker, better for riding through winter. When she emerged, Rowan was helping Eli into a coat that had clearly been cut down from something larger. It still swallowed the boy, but it would keep him alive. "Arms up," Rowan said. Eli obeyed. Rowan adjusted the sleeves, rolled them up so Eli's hands were free. "How's that?" "Good." Eli looked down at himself. "I look like you." "You look warm. That's what matters." Rowan handed Mara the crutch he'd made. "You'll need this until we're mounted. After that, you hold on to me. Horse is steady, but you slip, you could hurt that leg worse." "I've ridden before." "Not with a torn muscle, you haven't." He grabbed the rifle leaning against the wall, checked the chamber, slung it over his shoulder. "We ride hard for the first few hours. Put distance between us and anyone who might be watching. Then we'll rest." "What if someone's already out there?" Mara asked. "What if Granger's men are waiting?" "Then we deal with it." The simplicity of the statement was almost funny, like dealing with armed men was as routine as dealing with weather. Maybe for Rowan it was. They stepped outside. The world had transformed into something alien. Snow everywhere, reflecting sun so bright it hurt to look at. The temperature had dropped overnight. Mara's breath came out in clouds so thick she could barely see through them. The horse stood waiting, already loaded. She was a solid animal, not beautiful, but built for endurance. The kind of horse that would get you where you needed to go without complaint. Rowan lifted Eli first, set him in front of the saddle. Then he turned to Mara. "Ready?" She nodded. He gripped her waist, hands careful, impersonal, and lifted her up behind Eli. Her leg protested but held. She wrapped one arm around Eli, used the other to grip the saddle. Rowan mounted last, settling in behind her. He was close. Too close. She could feel the heat coming off him, smell wood smoke and leather, and something else she couldn't identify. Something that was just him. "Hold on," he said. His voice was right by her ear. "We're not stopping unless we have to." He clicked his tongue. The horse started moving. They rode in silence. The snow crunched under the mare's hooves, a steady rhythm that was almost hypnotic. The cold bit at exposed skin. Mara pulled Eli closer, used her body to shield him from the wind. The cabin disappeared behind them. Then the clearing. Then everything familiar. Just trees and snow and the narrow trail that wound through them like a scar. After an hour, Eli spoke up. "Where are we going exactly?" "Red Creek," Rowan said. "Town about 3 days from here." "Is it nice?" "It's a town. Towns aren't nice or not nice. They just are." "Are there other kids?" "Probably." "Will we stay there?" Rowan didn't answer right away. Mara felt him shift behind her, adjusting his weight. "That's up to your mama." Eli twisted to look at Mara. "Will we?" "I don't know yet," she said honestly. "First we need to talk to someone there. After that, we'll see. What if the bad men find us?" "They won't." "But what if they do?" Rowan's voice cut in, flat and certain. "Then I'll handle it." Something in his tone made it clear the conversation was over. Eli seemed to accept this, turned back around. But Mara felt tension in Rowan's body that hadn't been there before. The rifle across his back seemed heavier somehow, more present. They rode through the morning. The sun climbed higher but gave no warmth. Mara's leg ached, her back ached, everything ached. But she didn't complain. Complaining wouldn't change anything. Around noon, Rowan pulled the horse to a stop near a frozen stream. "We rest here. 10 minutes. He dismounted first, then helped Eli down. Mara tried to slide off herself, but her leg buckled. Rowan caught her before she hit the ground. "Told you to wait," he said. "I'm fine." "You're stubborn." He set her down carefully, made sure she had the crutch. "There's a difference." Eli wandered over to the stream, fascinated by the ice. Rowan watched him like a hawk, one hand never far from the rifle. Mara lowered herself onto a fallen log, tried to massage feeling back into her leg. "How much further today?" "Another 4 hours if we push. There's a trapper's shelter about 15 miles north. We can camp there tonight." "Is it safe?" "Safer than sleeping in the open." He pulled out a canteen, handed it to her. "Drink. Dehydration will kill you as fast as cold." She drank. The water was so cold it made her teeth hurt. She handed the canteen to Eli when he came back, watched him drink like he'd been crossing a desert. "Can I walk around?" Eli asked. "Stay where I can see you," Rowan said. "Don't go past those trees." Eli nodded, wandered off to explore. Kid resilience, the ability to find wonder even when the world was trying to kill you. Mara watched him go, then looked at Rowan. "Thank you for doing this." "You already thanked me. I'll probably thank you 100 more times before we get there." "Don't." He was scanning the tree line, eyes never still. "Makes it weird." "What should I do instead?" "Stay alive, keep the kids safe, that's thanks enough." They sat in silence, not comfortable silence, the kind loaded with things neither of them wanted to say. Finally, Mara broke it. "You ever regret it, saving us?" "Not yet." "That's not exactly reassuring." "You want me to lie?" "I want you to tell me we're going to make it to Red Creek." Rowan looked at her then, really looked. "I don't make promises I can't keep." "Then what can you promise?" that I'll do everything I can to get you there. That if someone comes for you, they'll have to go through me first. That's all I've got. It shouldn't have been enough. But somehow it was. Because Rowan didn't deal in false hope or empty words. What he said, he meant. And right now that was more valuable than gold. We should move, he said, standing. Longer we stay in one place. Worse our odds. He was right. They mounted up again, Rowan pulling Eli up first, then helping Mara. The horse shifted but didn't complain. Good animal, patient. They rode. The afternoon dragged on. The temperature kept dropping. Mara's face went numb. She tucked Eli's head under her chin, used her body to block the wind. Behind her, Rowan was a wall of warmth and solid presence. Around 4, the trail widened. They emerged from the trees onto what might have been a road once. Hard to tell under all the snow. Rowan pulled the horse to a stop. His body went rigid. "What is it?" Mara asked. "Tracks." He pointed. "Fresh. Maybe an hour old." Mara looked where he was pointing. She couldn't see anything at first, then she caught it. Hoof prints, multiple horses, heading in the same direction they were going. "Could be anyone," she said, but her voice shook. "Could be." Rowan didn't sound convinced. "But we're not taking chances. We go off-road, through the timber. That'll add hours. Better slow than dead." He turned the horse, guided her back into the trees. The going was harder here. No trail, just snow and underbrush and fallen logs. The mare picked her way carefully, but it was slow work. Eli twisted in the saddle. "Are the bad men close?" "Don't know," Rowan said, "but we're not waiting to find out." They pushed deeper into the forest. The trees closed in around them, dark, quiet. The kind of quiet that felt wrong, like nature was holding its breath. Mara's nerves were screaming. Every shadow looked like a person. Every crack of a branch sounded like a gunshot. She kept expecting armed riders to burst through the trees surrounding them, cutting off escape. But nothing happened. They just kept moving. One foot in front of the other, or in this case, one hoof in front of the other. By the time the sun started dropping toward the horizon, Mara was so tired she could barely stay upright. Eli had fallen asleep against her, dead weight. Even the horse seemed exhausted. Rowan finally stopped in a small clearing. "We camp here tonight. What about the shelter?" "Too risky. Those tracks worried me. We stay off the main routes." He dismounted, helped Mara down. Her leg nearly gave out. Only his hand on her arm kept her standing. "I've got you," he said quietly. And he did. He helped her to a fallen log, made sure she was steady, then went about setting up camp with mechanical efficiency. He cleared snow, laid out bedrolls, started a fire with tinder he'd packed. No wasted movement, everything purposeful. Eli woke up when the fire got going, rubbed his eyes. "Are we there?" "Not yet," Mara said. "Tomorrow." "I'm hungry." Rowan handed him dried meat and hard bread. "It's not much, but it'll keep you going." They ate in the firelight. The temperature kept dropping. Mara pulled Eli close, wrapped them both in blankets. Rowan sat apart, rifle across his knees, watching the darkness beyond the fire. "You should sleep," he said without looking at them. "I'll keep watch." "You need sleep too." "I'll sleep when we get to Red Creek." "That's not Mara." He looked at her. His face was cast in shadow, but his eyes caught the firelight. "I've gone 3 days without sleep before. I can do it again. You can't. So close your eyes and rest." She wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her like an anchor, and Eli was already half asleep against her side. "Wake me in a few hours," she said. "We'll trade off." Rowan didn't agree or disagree, just went back to watching the dark. Mara closed her eyes, meant to just rest them for a minute. But sleep took her hard and fast, dragging her under before she could fight it. She dreamed of Thomas. He was in the mine, calling for help. She could hear him but couldn't find him. The tunnels kept shifting, changing. She ran and ran but never got closer. His voice got fainter, then stopped. She woke with a gasp. The fire had burned down to embers. Eli was pressed against her, snoring softly. And Rowan was exactly where he'd been, sitting with the rifle, watching the darkness like he could will it not to hurt them. "What time is it?" she whispered. "Few hours till dawn." "You didn't wake me." "You needed the rest." "So do you." "I'm fine." He wasn't fine. She could see it in the set of his shoulders, the way he held himself. He was running on empty, same as the rest of them, but he wouldn't admit it, wouldn't show weakness, because in his mind, weakness meant death. Mara shifted, trying not to wake Eli. Her leg throbbed. "Can I ask you something? Can I stop you?" "Your son. What was his name?" Rowan went very still. For a long moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then quietly, "Jacob." "Jacob's a good name." "It was. Did he look like you?" "No, looked like his mother. Lucky kid." "I bet you were a good father." Rowan's jaw tightened. "I wasn't there when they needed me. That's not a good father. That's just a man who failed." "You couldn't have known." "Doesn't matter." His voice went hard. "I should have been there. I wasn't. End of story." Mara understood that guilt, that crushing weight of what-ifs and should-haves. She carried her own version, should have seen the danger sooner, should have gotten Eli away before Granger's men came, should have been smarter, faster, better. "You're here now," she said. "That counts for something." "Does it?" "To Eli it does. To me it does." Rowan didn't respond, just stared into the dying fire like it held answers he couldn't find anywhere else. They sat in silence until dawn started breaking. Gray light filtering through the trees, birds starting to sing, the world waking up to another day of trying to survive. Rowan stood, stretched, his back cracked loud enough to make Mara wince. "We move in 20 minutes. I want to be on the road before full light." "The tracks. We have to risk it. Can't make Red Creek through timber alone. Too slow. We hit the road. We ride hard. We don't stop unless we have to." He woke Eli gently, got him fed and ready, packed up camp with the same efficiency he did everything. Within 20 minutes, they were mounted and moving. The ride that day was harder, faster. Rowan pushed the mare, not cruel but firm. They couldn't afford to be careful anymore. Time was running out. They hit the main road around mid-morning. Rowan paused at the edge, scanning in both directions. Nothing. No tracks. No smoke. No signs of life. "Stay close," he said. "We see anyone? We ride. Don't stop. Don't talk. Just ride." They rode. The road was clearer here, packed snow instead of drifts. The mare picked up speed, settling into a steady canter that ate up miles. Mara held Eli tight, her legs screaming with every jolt. But she didn't ask Rowan to slow down, didn't complain. Around noon, they crested a hill. Below them, the road wound through a narrow pass between two ridges. Perfect ambush territory. Rowan pulled up, stared at the pass. His whole body had gone tense. "What?" Mara asked. "Don't like it. Too exposed. If someone's waiting, is there another way around?" "Yeah. Add 6 hours." "Can we afford 6 hours?" Rowan didn't answer. He was calculating, weighing risks. Finally, he swore under his breath. "No, we can't. We go through. But we go fast. And if I say run, you hold on to that saddle like your life depends on it. Because it will." He clicked his tongue. The mare moved forward. They descended into the pass. The walls rose on either side, rock and snow and ice. Sound echoed weird here. The horse's hooves seemed too loud. Mara's breathing seemed too loud. Everything was too loud. Halfway through, Rowan suddenly yanked the reins. The mare stopped. "What?" Mara started. "Quiet." His hand moved to the rifle. Then she heard it, voices coming from ahead, getting closer. Rowan turned the horse, started back the way they'd come. But before they'd gone 10 feet, riders appeared at the other end of the pass, blocking retreat. They were trapped. 4 men, rough-looking, armed, the kind you saw in every frontier town, hired guns doing dirty work for anyone who paid. One of them spurred his horse forward. He was older, scarred, with eyes that had seen too much cruelty and liked it. "Well now, what have we got here?" Rowan said nothing, just sat there, still as stone. The man rode closer, his eyes fixed on Mara. "You look familiar, lady. Anyone ever tell you that?" Mara's blood went cold. She knew what was coming, knew it with sick certainty. The man grinned, pulled out a folded paper, unfolded it, a wanted poster, rough sketch of a woman. Could have been anyone. Could have been Mara. "Says here there's a widow named Whitlock, wanted for theft. $500. Dead or alive." He looked at her. "That you?" Rowan's hand moved, subtle, finding the rifle. I asked you a question, the man said. His hand drifted toward his gun. No, Rowan said. His voice was flat, final. It's not her. That's so. Then you won't mind if we take a closer look. I mind. The man's grin widened. Well, that's too bad, friend, because we're going to look anyway. No, you're not. Something in Rowan's voice made the man pause, made all four of them pause. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Cold. Certain. The voice of a man who'd killed before and would do it again without hesitation. You really want to die for some stranger? The man asked. She's not a stranger. What is she then? Rowan's answer was simple. Final. Mine. The word hung in the air, not possessive, protective. A line drawn in snow and blood that said, you don't cross this. The man studied Rowan. Something shifted in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or just the understanding that some men weren't worth fighting. You know who we work for? Don't care. Silas Granger, richest man in the territory. Good for him. He wants this woman. He can't have her. You're making a mistake. Rowan's hand tightened on the rifle. Last chance. Turn around. Right away. Forget you saw us. Or what? Or I put a bullet through your skull and your friends ride home missing a man. The threat was delivered without emotion. No anger, no bluster, just cold fact. The scarred man looked at Rowan, then at his companions, then back at Rowan. Whatever he saw in those gray eyes made his decision. This ain't over, he said. Yes, Rowan said. It is. The man turned his horse, rode back to his companions. They talked in low voices. Mara couldn't hear what was said, but she saw the looks they gave Rowan. Calculation, fear, respect. Finally, they turned and rode away. Back through the pass, disappearing around the bend. Rowan didn't move, didn't relax, just sat there, waiting, making sure they were really gone. After 5 minutes, he finally exhaled. Hold on. He didn't wait for confirmation, just kicked the mare into a gallop. They exploded forward, racing through the pass, putting distance between them and the confrontation. They rode hard for an hour. When Rowan finally slowed, they were miles away, deep in timber again, hidden. He pulled up. Eli was crying silently. Mara was shaking. Rowan's hands were steady on the reins, but she could feel tension radiating off him like heat. Are they coming back? Mara asked. Eventually, maybe not them, but word will spread. Granger will know we're here. What do we do? We ride through the night, get to Red Creek before dawn. Once we're in town, around people, they can't touch us without causing a scene. You think that'll stop them? No, but it'll slow them down, give us time to get the deed to Vale. Mara looked at Eli, still shaking, looked at Rowan, jaw set, eyes hard, looked at the trail ahead, endless and dangerous. I'm sorry, she said, for dragging you into this. Little late for sorry. I know, but I am. Rowan turned to look at her. For just a second, his face softened. Stop apologizing. You're still alive. Kid's still alive. So am I. That's all that matters. Is it? Has to be. He turned back around, clicked his tongue. The mare started walking again. They rode into the fading light, 3 people running from a past that wouldn't let them go, racing toward a future that might not exist. And somewhere behind them, Silas Granger's men were mounting up, spreading the word, closing the net. The clock was ticking faster now. They rode through the night like ghosts, the mare's breath coming out in silver clouds under a moon so bright it turned the snow blue. Rowan pushed hard but not reckless, finding that razor edge between speed and survival that separated men who made it from men who died trying. Eli had stopped crying an hour after the confrontation. Now he just sat silent, small body rigid with exhaustion and fear. Mara held him tight, whispering things that probably didn't help but felt necessary. That they were safe, that Rowan would protect them, that everything would be okay. She didn't believe any of it. But sometimes lies were all you had. Around midnight, Rowan finally slowed the mare to a walk. They'd been climbing steadily for hours, the trail winding up through hills that blocked the worst of the wind but made every step harder. There's a stream ahead, he said. His voice was rough, tired. Horse needs water. We all do. They found the stream 10 minutes later, partially frozen but still flowing. Rowan dismounted first, his legs nearly giving out when he hit the ground. He caught himself on the saddle, stood there a moment collecting himself. "You all right?" Mara asked. "Fine." He wasn't fine. None of them were. But what choice did they have? He helped Mara down. Her leg had gone numb hours ago, which was probably better than feeling it. Eli slid down on his own, stumbled, sat down hard in the snow. "I'm tired," the boy said. Simple statement. No complaint. Just fact. "I know." Rowan crouched beside him. "We'll rest here. 20 minutes. Then we keep moving." "I don't think I can." "You can. You're stronger than you think." "How do you know?" "Because you're still here. Still moving. That's what strong looks like." Eli looked at him with those dark eyes. "Are you strong?" "No, I'm just stubborn. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" Rowan paused, considering. "Strong people know when to quit. Stubborn people don't know how." "Which is better?" "Depends on the day." Mara watched this exchange while filling a canteen from the stream. The water was so cold it made her hands ache, but it tasted clean. Pure. She drank until her stomach hurt, then filled it again. Rowan led the mare to the water, let her drink. The animal was exhausted too, sides heaving, head hanging low. But she was solid, dependable, the kind of horse you trusted with your life. "How much further?" Mara asked. 6 hours if we don't stop, 8 if we do." Rowan ran a hand down the mare's neck. "But we have to stop. Push her too hard, she'll collapse. Then we're walking." "Can we make it by dawn?" "Maybe, if we're lucky." "When have we been lucky?" Rowan almost smiled. Almost. "Fair point." They rested, ate dried meat that tasted like leather, and drank water that numbed their throats. The moon tracked across the sky, indifferent to their struggle. Cold sank deeper, finding gaps in clothes, settling into bones. Eli dozed off, sitting up, head lolling against Mara's shoulder. She held him, stared at the stream, tried not to think about what happened if they didn't make Red Creek. If Granger's men caught them out here in the open, if Vale wasn't the honest man everyone claimed, if the deed wasn't enough proof. Too many ifs, too many ways this ended badly. "You're thinking too loud," Rowan said. Mara looked over. He was checking the rifle, making sure it was loaded, ready. "What? I can hear you thinking from here. Stop it." "How do you know what I'm thinking?" "Because you're thinking the same thing I am. All the ways this goes wrong. And it doesn't help, so stop." "That simple?" "That simple." Mara wanted to argue, but he was right. Spiraling into worst-case scenarios wouldn't change anything. They were committed now. Had been since the moment Rowan pulled her out of the snow. "Those men back there," she said. "They'll tell Granger where we are." "Probably. He'll send more. Better men, faster." "I know. Doesn't that worry you?" Rowan finished checking the rifle, set it aside. "Worrying changes nothing. All I can do is put one foot in front of the other until we get there or we don't." "That's it? That's your philosophy?" "You got a better one?" She didn't. "What happens when we get to Red Creek?" "We find Vale. You give him the deed. He does whatever he's going to do. And then? Then you figure out what comes next. What about you?" Rowan was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know yet." "You could stay in Red Creek. Start over." "Start over as what? I've been a hermit for 7 years. Don't exactly have marketable skills." "You kept us alive. That counts for something. That's just survival. Anyone can survive." "No," Mara said quietly. "Not anyone. Most people would have left us in the snow. You didn't." "Maybe I should have." "But you didn't." He looked at her then. Really looked. And for just a second she saw past the walls he'd built. Saw the man underneath, scared, tired, carrying weight that would have crushed most people years ago. "Time to move," he said, standing. Conversation over. They mounted up. Rowan pulled Eli up, the boy barely conscious. Mara settled behind them, wrapped her arms around both. The mare started walking. The hours blurred together, dark, cold. Movement. That's all there was. Mara's leg had gone from numb to burning, each jolt sending pain shooting up her spine. But she didn't say anything. What would be the point? Around 4 in the morning, they crested a hill and Rowan pulled up short. Below them, maybe 3 miles distant, lights flickered. A town. Small. Maybe 24 buildings, but unmistakably civilization. Red Creek. "We made it," Mara breathed. "We're close," Rowan corrected. "Not the same thing." He was right. 3 miles might as well be 30 if Granger's men were between them and safety. They'd come too far to get sloppy now. Rowan guided the mare down the hill, staying off the main road, using whatever cover the terrain provided. Moving slow. Careful. Every sense alert for trouble. They were maybe a mile out when Eli spoke up. "Someone's coming." Rowan's hand moved to the rifle. "Where?" "Behind us. I heard something." Mara twisted, looked back. At first she saw nothing, then movement. Shadows against snow. Riders. Multiple. "How many?" Rowan asked, not looking back, trusting Eli's eyes. 3. Maybe 4. It's hard to tell. Rowan swore under his breath, kicked the mare into a trot, not running yet, not giving away that they'd been spotted, but moving faster. The mare responded, tired muscles finding something extra. Good horse, loyal. Mara looked back again. The riders were closer now, definitely 4, moving faster than they were, closing the distance. "They see us," she said. "I know." Rowan's voice was tight. "Hold on." He kicked the mare into a gallop. They flew down the trail, snow spraying behind them. The buildings of Red Creek got closer. Half a mile, quarter mile. So close Mara could see individual windows. Behind them, the riders were gaining, shouting now, drawing weapons. The first gunshot cracked through the night. "Down!" Rowan yelled. Mara pressed Eli flat, covered him with her body. Another shot. The bullet whined past, too close. The edge of town was right there. 50 yards. 40. 30. More shots. The mare stumbled, caught herself. Rowan pulled her hard right, putting buildings between them and the shooters. They crashed into Red Creek at a full gallop. Dogs started barking. Lights came on in windows. People shouted. Rowan didn't slow down until they reached the center of town, pulling up in front of a 2-story building with a sign that read, "Vale and Associates, Legal Services." He practically fell off the horse, legs barely holding. Helped Mara down, grabbed Eli. "Inside. Now." Mara stumbled toward the door. Locked. Of course it was locked. Middle of the night. Rowan didn't hesitate. He stepped back and kicked the door. Once, twice, wood splintered. The door crashed open. They tumbled inside just as the 4 riders rounded the corner into the square. Rowan slammed what was left of the door shut, shoved a desk in front of it. Not much of a barricade, but something. The building was dark. Smelled like paper and ink and old coffee. An office. Papers everywhere, file cabinets. A desk covered in documents. "Vale!" Rowan shouted. "Edwin Vale, you here?" No answer. "We need to find him," Mara said. "We need—" The door shuddered under an impact, someone kicking it from outside. The desk scraped forward an inch. Rowan moved to the window, rifle ready. "They're not coming in, not with the whole town watching." "You sure about that?" "No." Another impact. The desk moved again, then a voice from outside. Different voice. Not one of the riders. "This is Sheriff Coltrane. Open the door. Now." Rowan and Mara exchanged looks. "Sheriff. Could be good. Could be bad. Sheriffs out here ran the full spectrum from honest to bought." "We're not opening anything," Rowan called back. "We need to see Edwin Vale." "Vale's not here. Gone to the Capitol for the week. Now open the door before I break it down." "The Capitol?" Mara's voice cracked. They'd come all this way, risked everything, and Vale wasn't even here. Another impact. The desk moved a foot. "We're coming in," the sheriff said. "You got 3 seconds." Rowan looked at Mara. "The deed. Where is it?" She pulled it from inside her coat. The oilcloth was battered, but intact. "Give it to me." "What are you Trust me." She handed it over. Rowan moved to the window, opened it a crack. Looked out. Behind the sheriff and his deputies, a crowd was gathering. Townspeople, woken by the commotion. 12, 24, more coming. Rowan made a decision. He turned to Mara. "When they come through that door, you tell them everything. Loud. Make sure everyone hears the whole story. Don't leave anything out." "What about you?" I'll handle my part. The door exploded inward. The desk went flying. Sheriff Coltrane came through first, gun drawn, late 40s, weathered, with a face that said he'd seen too much and didn't want to see more. Behind him came 2 deputies and the 4 riders who'd chased them. The sheriff's gun came up, pointing at Rowan. Drop the rifle. Rowan didn't move. Can't do that. I'll shoot. Then shoot. But first you should know why we're here. Don't care why. My name is Mara Whitlock, Mara cut in, her voice loud and clear. My husband was Thomas Whitlock. He died 4 months ago in Silas Granger's mine. 23 men died with him. Granger called it an accident. It wasn't. The sheriff's gun wavered, just a fraction. Lady, I don't... Granger forged ownership papers and stole my land. Then he put a bounty on me when I took back what was mine. Those men behind you? They work for him. They've been hunting us for 2 weeks. More people were crowding into the doorway now, listening. Mara could see it on their faces, curiosity, skepticism, but also recognition. Granger's name meant something here. One of the riders pushed forward, the scarred man from the pass. She's lying. She's a thief, wanted for... For what? Mara shot back. For taking back my own land deed? For finding proof that Granger murdered my husband? Muttering from the crowd. The sheriff's face had gone very still. We rode 3 days to get here, Mara continued, through a blizzard. Because Edwin Vale is the only honest attorney in the territory. Because I have evidence that proves everything. Where, Tachane? The sheriff asked. His gun was still up, but he was listening now. Rowan stepped forward, holding up the oilcloth package. Right here. The scarred man moved fast, drew his gun. That belongs to Mr. Granger. Touch it, and you're dead, Rowan said flatly. The rifle came up smooth, practiced, the barrel pointing directly at the man's chest. Everything stopped. Nobody breathed. Sheriff, Rowan said, not taking his eyes off the gunman. You got a choice to make. You can shoot me. Let these men take the evidence. Send this woman and her boy back to die in the snow, and everyone in this room will know you did it. Every person standing in that doorway saw what happened here. The sheriff's jaw worked. Or you take the evidence into protective custody until Vale gets back. You listen to what she has to say, and you do your job instead of Granger's. You're asking me to go against the richest man in the territory. I'm asking you to do what's right. There's a difference. Silence stretched. The only sound was breathing. Dozens of people packed into and around the office, waiting to see what happened next. Finally, the sheriff lowered his gun. Give me the package. Rowan didn't move. How do I know you won't destroy it? You don't. But if I was going to, I'd have shot you already and taken it. He looked at the crowd. Too many witnesses now. I do anything dirty, word spreads. Can't have that. Rowan held his gaze for a long moment. Then slowly, carefully, he handed over the oilcloth package. The sheriff took it, opened it, pulled out the deed and the ledger. His eyes scanned the pages, widened, kept reading. One of Granger's men stepped forward. Sheriff, Mr. Granger will want to know... I don't care what Granger wants. The sheriff's voice was hard. Get out of my town. All of you. Now. But now, before I arrest you for attempted murder. I heard those shots. You were firing at civilians. The scarred man's face went red. This isn't over. Yeah, the sheriff said. It is. The 4 men exchanged looks. Then, slowly, they backed toward the door. The crowd parted to let them through. Silent. Watching. When they were gone, the sheriff turned to Mara. You got somewhere to stay? No. Martha. He called to someone in the crowd. A woman stepped forward, older, kind face. Can you put them up, just for a few days? Of course. Martha moved toward Mara. Come on, dear. You look half dead. I need to know the evidence is safe, Mara said. It'll be in my safe, the sheriff replied. Nobody's getting to it. You have my word. Your word doesn't mean much to me. Fair enough, but it's all you got right now. He was right. They had no choice but to trust him. Mara looked at Rowan. He gave a slight nod. Trust him. All right, Mara said. But I want it known. Anything happens to that evidence, everyone in this room is a witness. Noted. The sheriff looked at Rowan. You got a name? Rowan Creed? You ex-military? Does it matter? Explains the stance, the discipline. The sheriff studied him. You can put the rifle down now. Rowan lowered it slowly. Those men will be back. I know, but not tonight. Not with half the town awake and watching. Martha stepped forward, put a gentle hand on Mara's arm. Come on, let's get you cleaned up, get some food in you. Mara wanted to protest, wanted to stay and make sure the evidence was secure, but exhaustion hit her like a physical weight. She'd been running on empty for so long she'd forgotten what tired felt like. Now it all caught up at once. Okay, she whispered. Martha led them out. The crowd parted again. Mara saw their faces, some sympathetic, some curious, some hostile. Small towns were like that. Pick a side fast. Loyalty meant survival. They walked 3 buildings down to a boarding house. Clean, warm, smelled like bread and coffee. Martha showed them upstairs to a room with 2 beds. Bathroom's down the hall, she said. I'll bring up some food. Thank you, Mara managed. Don't thank me yet. Town's going to be talking by morning. Not everyone will be friendly. I know. Martha left. Mara lowered herself onto one of the beds. Her leg finally gave up, going from burning to nothing. Eli crawled up beside her, pressed against her side. Rowan stood by the window, looking out. On guard even now. You should rest, Mara said. Later. Rowan, I said later. Martha came back with a tray. Soup, bread, coffee. They ate mechanically. Fuel. That's all food was anymore. When they finished, Martha took the tray. There's a doctor 3 doors down. I'll fetch him to look at that leg. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're running on stubbornness and fear, but you're safe now, so let someone help. She left before Mara could argue. Eli had already fallen asleep, curled in a ball on the bed, dead to the world. Mara looked at Rowan. We made it. We're here. Not the same thing. Always so optimistic. Always so realistic. What happens now? We wait. Vale comes back, looks at the evidence, does his job. And if he doesn't, then we figure something else out. What if there is no something else? Rowan finally turned from the window. His face was drawn, exhausted, but his eyes were clear. Then we deal with that when it happens. Stop borrowing trouble. I can't help it. I know, but try. A knock at the door. Rowan's hand moved to his gun before he realized it was probably the doctor. He opened it carefully. An old man stood there, balding, spectacles, medical bag. Martha said someone needs looking at? Her leg. Rowan stepped aside. The doctor came in, examined Mara's leg with practiced efficiency, prodded, poked, made her wince. Who did the stitching? I did, Rowan said. Not bad. Little rough but functional. Legs healing, muscles torn but not destroyed. You're lucky. Don't feel lucky. You're alive, that's lucky. He rebandaged the leg properly. Stay off it for a week. After that, short walks. Build up slowly. Push too hard, you'll cripple yourself. I've heard that before. Then maybe listen this time. He packed up his bag. No charge. Martha will cover it. Why would she do that? The doctor looked at her. Because Silas Granger killed my nephew in that mine. And if you've got proof he did it on purpose, I want to see him hang. He left. The door closed softly. Mara sat there, feeling the weight of it. How many people had Granger hurt? How many families destroyed? The evidence she carried wasn't just about Thomas anymore. It was about all of them. You should sleep, Rowan said. What about you? I'll watch. For how long? As long as it takes. Mara lay back, pulled Eli close, stared at the ceiling. Rowan? Yeah? Thank you for everything. I know I keep saying it, but stop. I can't. You saved our lives multiple times. You would have done the same. I don't know if I would have. You would. You're stronger than you think. That's the second time you've said that. Still true. Mara closed her eyes, felt sleep pulling at her. What happens after this? After Vale does his job? You tell me. I don't know. Haven't thought past surviving. Then think now. What do you want to happen? Rowan was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, I don't know. Haven't thought past surviving either. We're a pair. Yeah, we are. Mara drifted, sleep taking her in pieces. The last thing she heard was Rowan moving around the room, checking the window, the door, making sure they were safe, always watching, always protecting, even when he was barely standing himself. She fell asleep wondering what it cost him, being the one who kept everyone else alive, wondering if anyone had ever kept him alive in return. Outside, Red Creek settled back into uneasy silence, but word was already spreading. The widow and the mountain man had made it to town. They had evidence against Silas Granger, and the most powerful man in the territory was about to find out that sometimes money and fear weren't enough. Sometimes people fought back, and sometimes they won. Morning came with voices in the street, angry voices. Mara woke to them, heart already racing before her eyes opened. Beside her, Eli stirred but didn't wake. The boy could sleep through anything now. Exhaustion had that effect. Rowan was at the window. Still. Had he slept at all? Probably not. "What's happening?" Mara asked, sitting up. Her leg protested immediately, a deep ache that reminded her exactly how far they'd pushed it. "Town meeting. In the square." Rowan didn't turn from the window. "Been going for about an hour." "About us?" "About the evidence. About Granger. About what happens next." Mara pulled herself up, limped to the other window. Below, the town square was packed. Had to be 100 people, maybe more. She could see Sheriff Coltrane standing on the steps of his office, holding papers. The deed and ledger. "Can you hear what they're saying?" "Some of it. People are divided. Half think you're telling the truth. Half think it's a setup." "A setup for what?" "To ruin Granger. To steal his land. People get creative when they don't want to believe something." A knock at the door made them both turn. Rowan's hand went to his gun before Martha's voice called through. "It's just me. Brought breakfast." Rowan opened the door. Martha came in with another tray. Eggs, bacon, bread, coffee. Real food. The kind that said civilization still existed somewhere. "You should eat quick," she said, setting down the tray. Vale's back. Mara's breath caught. "When?" "Rode in 20 minutes ago. Went straight to the sheriff's office. They're reviewing the evidence now." "How long will that take?" "However long it takes. Vale's thorough. Won't rush just because people are shouting in the square." "What are they shouting?" Mara asked. Martha's face went tight. "Some want justice. Some want you gone. Granger has friends here, lots of them. Men he's loaned money to, businesses he's invested in. They don't want to believe he's a murderer because if he is, they've been taking blood money." "What do you think?" "I think my son died in that mine. I think 22 other men died with him. And I think Granger paid me $200 to shut up and bury my boy." Her voice shook. "So yeah, I believe you. And I hope Vale does too." She left. The door closed. Mara stood there feeling the weight of it. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Martha's son, the doctor's nephew. 23 families who'd lost someone and been paid to swallow their grief. They ate quickly. Eli woke up halfway through, groggy but hungry. He didn't ask questions, just ate. Maybe he was learning that sometimes it was better not to know. An hour later, another knock. The sheriff this time. "Vale wants to see you, all of you." They followed him down. The crowd in the square parted as they passed. Mara felt eyes on her. Judgment, curiosity, hatred, hope. All of it mixed together in a way that made her skin crawl. Someone spat at her feet. An old woman, face twisted with rage. "Liar! Trying to destroy a good man!" The sheriff moved between them. "Keep walking." Another voice called out. "My brother worked in that mine. Tell us the truth." More voices joined, some hostile, some desperate. The crowd was a living thing, shifting, dangerous. One wrong move, and it could turn into a mob. Rowan's hand stayed on his rifle. His eyes scanned constantly, looking for threats. Always ready. Vale's office was bigger than the sheriff's. Bookcases lined the walls, stuffed with legal volumes. A large desk dominated the center, covered in papers. And behind it sat a man in his 60s, gray-haired, sharp-eyed, with the kind of face that said he'd heard every lie the frontier had to offer and didn't believe any of them. Edwin Vale stood when they entered. "Mrs. Whitlock, please, sit." Mara sat. Rowan stood behind her, one hand on Eli's shoulder. The boy pressed against him, seeking safety. Vale sat back down, steepled his fingers. "I've reviewed the documents. The deed is authentic. The signatures match the territorial records. And the ledger—" He paused. "The ledger is damning." "So you believe me," Mara said. "I believe the evidence." Whether I believe you personally is irrelevant. The law deals in facts, not feelings. He picked up the ledger. This document details systematic fraud, bribery, and willful negligence that directly caused the deaths of 23 men. If even half of what's documented here is true, Silas Granger belongs in prison for the rest of his life. If? Mara's voice rose. My husband died. Those men died. That's not if. I understand your anger, Mrs. Whitlock, but the law requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt. This ledger is powerful evidence, but it's not testimony. It's numbers on a page. Granger will argue it's forged, that you created it to frame him. That's insane. I don't even understand half the entries, which actually helps your case, but we'll still need witnesses. People willing to testify about the safety violations, the bribes, the threats. People willing to stand up in court and say, under oath, that Silas Granger knowingly let those men die. People are terrified of him. I know, which is why this will be difficult. Vale leaned forward. But not impossible. The fact that you made it here alive, with this evidence intact, changes things. People are talking. The sheriff showed me the deed publicly. Word is spreading. Granger's grip is loosening. Rowan spoke up. How long before he makes a move? He already has. Got word this morning that he's on his way here, with lawyers and armed men. He'll try to intimidate, threaten, buy his way out. It's what he does. Will it work? Not if I have anything to say about it. Vale's eyes hardened. I've been waiting 20 years for someone to bring me solid evidence against that man. I'm not letting this opportunity slip away. What do you need from me? Mara asked. Your testimony, detailed. Everything you know about your husband's death, the theft of your land, what you found in Granger's office. I'll need it written down, signed, witnessed. How long will that take? Rest of the day, maybe into tomorrow. After that, I'll file formal charges with the territorial court. And then? Then we wait for the trial. Could be months. Mara's stomach dropped. Months? We can't stay here for months. You don't have a choice. You're the primary witness. You leave, the case collapses. But Granger, he'll kill us. You know he will. Not if you're under protective custody. Sheriff Coltrane has already agreed to provide security. Rowan made a sound, not quite a laugh. One small-town sheriff against Granger's whole organization? That's not security. That's a target. You have a better idea? Yeah, we leave. Tonight. Disappear. Let the evidence speak for itself. It won't work, Vale said flatly. Without her testimony, a good lawyer will tear this apart, and Granger has excellent lawyers. So we're trapped, Mara said. Stay and risk dying. Leave and let him win. Welcome to the law. Vale's voice wasn't unkind, just realistic. It's not justice, it's a system, and systems move slow. The door burst open. A deputy stumbled in, out of breath. Sheriff, he's here. Granger. Just rode into town with 20 men. The temperature in the room dropped. Rowan's hand moved to his rifle. Vale stood. Everyone stay calm. This was expected. Expected? Mara's voice cracked. He's here to kill us. He's here to intimidate. There's a difference. He won't do anything violent with the whole town watching. You sure about that? Vale hesitated. Reasonably sure. That's not good enough, Rowan said. He looked at the sheriff. You have a back door? Yeah, but get them out. Now, while Granger's focused on the front. I can't just... Sheriff, Rowan's voice went hard. You put them in a room with Granger right now. Someone dies. Maybe them. Maybe him. Either way, the case is over. You want that? Coltrane looked at Vale. Vale nodded slowly. He's right. Get them somewhere safe. I'll handle Granger. The sheriff grabbed Mara's arm. Come on, quick. They moved fast. Down a back hallway, through a storage room, out a rear door into an alley. The sheriff led them 3 buildings over, up a back staircase, into a small apartment above a general store. Stay here, he said. Don't make noise. Don't show yourselves. I'll come back when it's safe. How will you know when it's safe? Mara asked. I'll know. He left, locked the door from the outside. They were trapped again. Different room, same situation. Eli sat on the floor, hugging his knees. He'd been quiet through all of this. Too quiet. Mama, are we going to die? The question was so direct it hurt. No child should have to ask that. But this child had learned that death was real and close and could come for anyone. No, baby, we're not. You don't know that. You're right, I don't. But I believe it. Why? Mara looked at Rowan. He was at the window again, watching the street. Always watching. Because we've come too far to quit now, and because people like Rowan don't let bad things happen if they can stop them. Rowan glanced back. Don't make me into something I'm not. What are you then? Just a man trying to do one thing right. That's enough. They waited. Below they could hear shouting. Granger's voice, loud and angry, cutting through the morning air like a blade. Vale's voice, calm and firm, meeting each accusation with measured responses. The crowd murmuring, a dangerous undercurrent of mob energy looking for direction. Then gunshots. 3 of them, sharp and close. The sound that changes everything. Rowan had the rifle up instantly. Stay down. More shouting, running footsteps. Someone screamed, a woman's voice, high and terrified. Glass breaking, the sounds of violence spreading like fire. Eli pressed against Mara, shaking. She held him tight, trying to be brave when all she felt was terror. Her mind raced through scenarios, each worse than the last. What if Vale was dead? What if the sheriff was dead? What if Granger's men were coming for them right now? The door unlocked, burst open. Sheriff Coltrane stood there, blood on his shirt. Not his blood, someone else's. His face was pale, but his gun was steady. We need to move, now. What happened? Rowan demanded. One of Granger's men pulled a gun, shot at Vale, missed. I shot back, didn't miss. Now the whole town's ready to riot. Granger's people want revenge. Our people want him arrested. It's a powder keg down there. Where's Granger? Barricaded in my office with his lawyers, claiming self-defense, saying we attacked him. Half the town believes it. And Vale? Alive. Shaken but alive. He's trying to calm people down, but it's not working. Where are we going? Church. Only neutral ground left. Even Granger won't touch a church. Hopefully. They moved again. Down different stairs, through different alleys. Mara's legs screamed with every step, but she forced herself to keep moving. Behind them, the sounds of the riot grew louder, crashing, shouting, the town tearing itself apart. They passed a group of men fighting in the street, fists and blood and rage. The sheriff pulled them past quickly, gun drawn, warning anyone who got too close to back off. This is insane, Mara gasped. The whole town's gone mad. That's what happens when fear meets anger, the sheriff said. People stop thinking, just react. They rounded a corner and nearly ran into 3 of Granger's men, armed, looking for trouble. The scarred man from the past was there. His eyes lit up when he saw Mara. There she is. The line. Rowan's rifle came up, the barrel inches from the man's face. Move. You gonna shoot me in front of the sheriff? If I have to. That's murder. That's self-defense. You're armed, threatening civilians. Sheriff, back me up here. Coltrane's gun was already out. He's right. Walk away. Last chance. The 3 men looked at each other, calculating. The riot had emboldened them, but 3 guns pointing at you had a way of clarifying priorities. This isn't over, the scarred man said. Keep telling yourself that, Rowan replied. They backed off, disappeared into the chaos. But Mara knew they'd be back. Men like that didn't forget humiliation. The church was just ahead. Small building, white paint peeling, but solid. A place that had stood through storms and time and human ugliness. The sheriff unlocked the door with a key from his belt. You'll be safe here. Granger won't touch a church. Even he has limits. You hope, Rowan said. I hope. The sheriff looked at Mara. Vale wants your testimony tonight. Everything written down. Can you do that? Yes. Good. I'll bring him here after dark. Until then, stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone but me or Vale. And I mean anyone. What about you? Mara asked. What are you going to do? Try to keep this town from burning itself down. He looked exhausted, like he'd aged 10 years in the last hour. Never thought I'd see the day Red Creek turned on itself like this. But Granger's got people convinced you're the enemy, not him, you. How do we fix that? We don't. Vale does, with the law, with facts. But that takes time. And time is something we're running out of. He left, locked them in again. The church was empty. Quiet. Pews lined up in neat rows. An altar at the front. windows that let in gray light but no warmth. The silence was almost oppressive after the chaos outside. Eli wandered toward the front, looking around with the curiosity of a child discovering something new. "I've never been in a church before." "Your father wasn't religious," Mara said. "Neither am I." "What's it for?" "People come here when they need hope, when they need to believe things will get better." "Does it work?" Mara looked at the altar, at the simple cross hanging above it. "I don't know, maybe for some people. Maybe belief is enough sometimes." "Do you believe in anything?" The question caught her off guard. Did she? After everything, Thomas's death, the running, the fear, what did she believe in? "I believe people can choose to be good," she said finally. "Even when it's hard, even when it costs them. I believe that matters." Eli touched one of the pews, running his small hand along the worn wood. "Do you think Papa's in heaven?" The question stabbed through Mara's chest. She'd been avoiding thinking about it, about where Thomas was now, if he was anywhere at all. I think if there is a heaven, he's there, looking out for us." Then why didn't he stop the bad things from happening? Out of the mouths of children, the questions adults spent lifetimes avoiding. Because heaven doesn't work that way. People have to stop bad things. Not spirits, not prayers, just people. Like Rowan? Yeah, like Rowan. Rowan was checking the windows, making sure they were secure. He moved through the church like it was enemy territory, trusting nothing, testing locks, looking for weak points, always prepared. "You think he's really going to stay?" Eli asked quietly. "After this is over?" "I don't know, baby. I want him to." "Me too." "Do you think he wants to?" Mara watched Rowan work. Methodical, careful. A man who'd spent years building walls around himself. "I think he's scared of wanting things, of losing them again." "But we're not going anywhere." "He doesn't know that. Not really. All he knows is that everyone he loved before is gone. That makes it hard to trust that we'll stay." "How do we make him trust?" "By being here, every day, until he believes it." Hours passed. Gray light faded to darker gray. Outside, the sounds of the riot continued. Sporadic. Angry. The town eating itself from the inside out. Mara tried to rest but couldn't. Her mind kept racing. What if Vale couldn't control this? What if the mob decided to storm the church? What if Granger's men came back with more people, more guns? Around 5, smoke started seeping under the door. Rowan was up instantly. "Fire! Something's burning!" He opened the door a crack. Thick smoke billowed in. Outside, orange light flickered. Not the church. Something nearby. A building. Maybe more than one. "Someone's torching the town," Rowan said. He slammed the door shut. "We need to move." "Where?" "The sheriff said, the sheriff's not here, and if those fires spread, this church goes up with us inside." He was right. Wooden building, old, dry. It would burn fast. They gathered their things. Rowan checked the back door. Clear, for now. "Stay close," he said. "We're going to the livery stable. Stone building. Won't burn. We hole up there until this passes." They slipped out the back. The air was thick with smoke, ash falling like snow. 3 buildings were burning now, maybe 4. People running everywhere. Some fighting the fires, some watching, some just running. The livery was 2 blocks away. They moved fast, staying to the shadows. Mara's leg protested, but adrenaline pushed her through. Eli stayed between her and Rowan, holding both their hands. They were halfway there when they heard horses, riders, coming fast. Rowan pulled them into an alley, pressed against the wall. The riders thundered past. 6 of them. Granger's men, armed, looking for something, looking for them. "They're hunting us," Mara whispered. "I know. Move." They ran, as fast as Mara's leg would allow. The livery appeared ahead. The door was open. They ducked inside. The building smelled like horses and hay and leather. Dark, quiet, safe. For now. Rowan barred the door, found a ladder leading to a loft. "Up, now!" They climbed. The loft was full of hay bales. Good cover. Rowan positioned them behind the bales, rifle ready. Below, horses stirred in their stalls. Nervous, sensing danger. Footsteps outside. Multiple people. Voices. "Check every building. They're here somewhere." Boss wants them alive, the woman especially. She's got more information. What about the man? Him? Boss said, do whatever. Just make sure he doesn't interfere again. The voices moved on, but they'd be back. Systematic search, only a matter of time. We can't stay here, Mara whispered. Can't leave either. Not with them out there. So what do we do? Rowan didn't answer. He was thinking, planning, looking for angles. There's a horse down there, he said finally. Big one. Could carry all three of us if we don't push too hard. You want to ride out? In the middle of this? Better than waiting for them to find us. Where would we go? Anywhere but here. Eli spoke up. What about Mr. Vale and the evidence? Vale's still got the evidence. That doesn't change. But if we're dead, it doesn't matter. He was right. Survival first. Justice second. How do we get to the horse without them seeing? Mara asked. We don't. We wait until dark. Another hour. Then we move fast and quiet. They won't expect us to leave during the riot. They think we're hiding. Aren't we? For now. They waited. The longest hour of Mara's life. Below, the livery door rattled twice. Someone checking it, finding it barred, moving on. Each time her heart stopped. Each time Rowan's rifle came up. But no one forced their way in. Finally, darkness fell. Full dark. The kind you get in winter when the sun dies fast. Rowan moved to the ladder. I go first. Check if it's clear. You wait here. I whistle twice. You come down. Fast. He disappeared down the ladder. Mara held Eli close, listening, waiting. Every sound magnified, every breath too loud. 2 whistles. Soft but clear. They climbed down. Rowan had the big horse saddled already. A draft horse. Built for pulling, not speed, but strong, reliable. He lifted Eli up first, then helped Mara. She settled behind Eli, wrapped her arms around him. Rowan mounted last, taking the reins. Hold tight, he said. This is going to be rough. He opened the door, led the horse out. The street was chaos, fire, smoke, people running. No one noticed 3 more people on a horse. They walked it first. Steady, not drawing attention, past burning buildings, past fighters, past everything. Then someone shouted, There! That's them! Rowan kicked the horse. Hard. The big animal lunged forward. Not fast, not graceful, but powerful. Unstoppable. They crashed through a group of men, scattering them like pins. Gunshots, bullets whining past. One struck a building beside them, another hit the ground. Rowan didn't slow down, just kept pushing the horse forward. Out of town, onto the road, into darkness. They rode hard for 10 minutes, maybe more, until the sounds of Red Creek faded behind them. Finally, Rowan slowed. Let the horse catch its breath. They were alone on the road. No pursuit. Not yet. Where are we going? Mara asked. I don't know. We can't just run forever. I know. Vale needs my testimony. Vale's going to have to wait. But, Mara, Rowan's voice was firm. You can't testify if you're dead. We regroup. Figure out our next move. Then we go from there. He was right, but it felt like giving up, like letting Granger win. How far can we get before they catch up? She asked. Depends how fast they organize. Maybe a day, maybe less. That's not enough time. It's what we've got. They rode through the night. The horse was tired but kept moving. Good animal, loyal, doing its job. Around midnight, they found an abandoned line shack. Small, cold, but shelter. Rowan helped them down, got the horse inside the attached lean-to, fed it what little grain they had. Inside the shack, he built a small fire, just enough for warmth. Too much smoke would give them away. Eli was asleep almost instantly, exhausted, past his limit. Mara sat by the fire, watching flames dance. I'm sorry. For what? For dragging you into this, for everything. You'd be safe in your cabin if we hadn't shown up. Safe and alone. Not the same thing as living. Is this living? Running, hiding, always looking over our shoulder? No, but it's a step toward it. Rowan poked the fire. We're not done yet. Feels like we are. You want to quit? No, but I'm tired of fighting. I know, but the alternative is letting Granger win, and that means Thomas died for nothing. Those 23 men died for nothing. You want that? Of course not. Then we keep going, until we can't anymore. Mara looked at him. Really looked. This man who'd given up years of his life, who'd saved them, protected them, asked for nothing in return. Why do you do it? Why keep fighting for us? Because. He paused, searching for words. Because 7 years ago, I gave up. Let the world take everything from me. Didn't fight, didn't try. Just let it happen. And I've regretted it every day since. You couldn't have stopped a fever. No. But I could have been there. Could have held them. Told them I loved them. Instead, I was in town buying supplies because I thought there was time. There's never enough time. His voice cracked. Just slightly, the first real emotion she'd heard from him. This time, I'm not giving up, he continued. I'm staying, fighting, whatever it takes, because maybe that's how I make peace with failing them, by not failing you. Mara's throat tightened. You haven't failed us. Not yet. You won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. They sat in silence. The fire crackled. Outside, wind howled. But inside, just for a moment, there was peace. What happens if we make it through this? Rowan asked. You mean when we make it through? When? What happens? I don't know. Find somewhere quiet. Raise Eli. Try to build something that lasts. Sounds nice. You could be part of it, if you wanted. Rowan looked at her. You mean that? Yeah, I do. Eli needs a father. I need someone. And you need to stop living like a ghost. What if I fail again? What if you don't? The question hung in the air, a challenge, an invitation. I'll think about it, Rowan said finally. That's all I'm asking. Morning came gray and cold. They ate what little food remained, got back on the horse, kept moving. Around noon, they saw riders behind them, distant but gaining. How many? Mara asked. 4, maybe 5. Can we outrun them? Not on this horse, not carrying 3 people. Then what? Rowan scanned the terrain. There, that ridge. We can defend it. He guided the horse up a steep slope. The animal struggled but made it. At the top, a cluster of rocks provided cover. Rowan dismounted, helped Mara and Eli down. Stay behind the rocks. Don't move unless I say. He checked his rifle, counted bullets. 8 rounds, plus his revolver. Maybe enough. Maybe not. The riders got closer, 5 of them, including the scarred man. They stopped at the base of the ridge, looking up, calculating. The scarred man cupped his hands. You're trapped up there. Come down and maybe we let the kid live. Rowan's answer was simple. He fired once. The bullet kicked up dirt 2 feet in front of the man's horse. Next one goes through your chest, Rowan called back. You'll run out of bullets eventually. Want to find out how long that takes? Standoff. The 5 men looked at each other, arguing, deciding. Then one of them spurred his horse forward, charging up the slope. Rowan waited, calm, patient. The horse got halfway up. He fired. The rider fell. The horse panicked, ran back down. Anyone else? Rowan asked. No one moved. The wounded man crawled away, cursing. This is stupid, one of them shouted. Granger's not paying us enough to die. Then leave, Rowan said, more arguing below. Finally, 3 of them turned their horses, rode away. The scarred man and 1 other stayed, but they didn't advance, just watched. They're waiting for reinforcements, Rowan said quietly. How long do we have? Hour, maybe 2. What do? We make them think we're staying, then we slip out the back way after dark. There's a back way. There's always a back way. Just have to find it. They waited through the afternoon. The 2 men below didn't move. Just watched. Waiting. As the sun started dropping, Rowan scouted behind the ridge, found a narrow path down the opposite side. Steep. Dangerous. But possible. We go when it's full dark, he said. Leave the horse. It'll slow us down. Where do we go? There's a trading post about 10 miles east, run by a man named Boone, old friend. He'll help. You sure? No, but it's our best option. Darkness fell. Rowan waited another hour, making sure the men below couldn't see. Then they moved. Down the back path. Slow. Careful. Mara's legs screaming. Eli between them. 1 foot in front of the other. They made it to the bottom. Started walking east. Fast as they could manage. Behind them, shouts. The men had realized they were gone, but by then it was too late. They were shadows in the darkness. Gone. They walked through the night. Eli rode on Rowan's shoulders when he got too tired. Mara pushed through pain that would have dropped most people, but she didn't complain, didn't stop. Dawn was breaking when they saw the trading post. Small building, smoke rising from the chimney. Rowan knocked, hard. A voice from inside. "We're closed." "Boone, it's Rowan Creed." Silence. Then bolt sliding. The door opened. A man stood there, 60-ish, weathered face, but his eyes went wide when he saw Rowan. "Well, I'll be damned. Thought you were dead." "Close enough. We need help." Boone looked at Mara and Eli, took in their condition. "Come in, quickly." They stumbled inside. Warmth hit like a physical force. Mara nearly collapsed. Boone caught her. "Easy now. Got you. You're safe here." "We're being hunted," Rowan said. "Granger's men." "Silas Granger? That bastard? What'd you do to piss him off?" "Long story." "Well, you better tell me quick, because if his men are coming here, I need to know what I'm dealing with." Rowan told him. Everything. The mine collapse, the evidence, the chase. All of it. When he finished, Boone whistled low. "You don't do anything small, do you? Never been good at that." "Granger's got half the territory in his pocket. You realize that?" "I know." "And you're still fighting him?" "Yeah." "Why?" Rowan looked at Mara and Eli. "Because they need me to." Boone studied him, then nodded. "All right, here's what we're going to do. You rest here today. Tonight, I'll take you to the territorial capital. I've got business there anyway. You can talk to the governor's office directly. Go over Vale's Head. Get real protection." "That'll work?" Mara asked. "If the evidence is as good as Rowan says?" "Yeah. Should. Governor's been looking for a reason to take down Granger for years, just never had the proof." "What about Granger's men?" "They won't follow you to the capital. Too much attention, too many witnesses. They'll back off, regroup, but by then you'll have official protection." It was the best plan they'd had in days, maybe ever. They rested, really rested. Boone fed them, gave them beds, stood watch while they slept. That night he loaded them into a wagon, covered them with canvas and supplies. Anyone looking would just see a supply run. They left under cover of darkness. The journey took 3 days. Long, uncomfortable, but safe. The capital was bigger than Red Creek, bigger than anywhere Mara had seen. Buildings, people, soldiers, real civilization. Boone took them straight to the governor's office. Used connections Mara didn't know he had, got them in front of the territorial attorney general within hours. Mara told her story again, showed the evidence. The attorney general listened, really listened. "This is extraordinary," he said when she finished, "and damning. We'll need to coordinate with Vale, get his case files, but Mrs. Whitlock, you've done something remarkable here. I just want justice. You'll get it, I promise you that." Promises. Mara had stopped believing in promises, but something in his voice made her think maybe this one would stick. They stayed in the capital while the legal machinery churned. Witness statements, depositions, document verification. It took weeks, but it was thorough. Vale arrived with his files. Together, they built an airtight case. 2 months after reaching the capital, formal charges were filed. Silas Granger was arrested by territorial marshals, dragged from his estate in chains. His lawyers fought. Hard. But the evidence was overwhelming. The trial lasted 6 days. The longest 6 days of Mara's life, she testified. So did 12 miners, 3 engineers, 5 clerks. An endless parade of people Granger had hurt, threatened, silenced. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. Guilty on all counts. Silas Granger was sentenced to 20 years in the territorial prison. His assets were seized, his empire dismantled. Every corrupt official he'd bought was investigated. Several went down with him. The day the verdict came down, Mara stood outside the courthouse and cried. Not relief, not joy, just the release of everything she'd carried for so long. The fear, the rage, the grief. Eli grabbed her hand. "Is it really over?" "Yeah, baby, it's really over." "What do we do now?" That was the question, wasn't it? What came after survival, after fighting, after winning? Mara looked at Rowan. He stood apart from the celebrating crowd, watching, always watching. But something in his face was different, lighter, like a weight had finally lifted. "We figure out how to live," she said. "Really live, not just survive." "How do we do that?" "We find a home, we stay there, we build something." "Can Rowan come?" "I hope so." Eli ran over to Rowan, grabbed his hand, said something Mara couldn't hear, but she saw Rowan's face, saw him crouch down. Talk to the boy. Really talk. Then Eli threw his arms around Rowan's neck, and the man who'd spent 7 years pushing everyone away finally hugged back. They left the capital 2 weeks later, not running this time, just leaving, moving towards something instead of away. They found a town called Ashford. Small, quiet. The kind of place where people minded their business, where the past didn't matter as much as the present. Mara opened a shop with the money from selling her land back to the mine. Dry goods and sundries. Nothing fancy, but it was hers, legal, safe. Eli started school, made friends, learned to be a kid again. The nightmares faded. Not gone, but manageable. And Rowan stayed, not immediately. He didn't move in that first week or month, just hung around, helped fix up the building, repaired things, made himself useful. But gradually, the gaps between visits got shorter, until he wasn't visiting anymore. Just there. Part of the household. Part of the family. It wasn't perfect. There were hard days. Days when Mara missed Thomas so much she could barely breathe. Days when Rowan retreated into himself, haunted by ghosts only he could see. Days when Eli had nightmares about men with guns. But there were good days too. More of them than bad. Days of normal problems and normal joys. First days of school and last days. Fixed wagon wheels and broken ones. Burned dinners and good meals. Laughter that came easier with time. 6 months after Ashford, Eli asked Rowan to help with his homework. Reading. Rowan wasn't great at it. His education had been practical, not academic, but he tried. Sat with Eli at the table, sounding out words, patient when the boy struggled. Mara watched from the doorway. This scene. Domestic. Normal. The kind of normal she'd thought died with Thomas. "You're good with him," she said later, after Eli went to bed. "He's a good kid. He asked me yesterday if he could call you Pa." Rowan went very still. "What did you tell him?" "I told him to ask you himself." "What if I say no?" "Then he'll understand. But Rowan, you are the one who saved us. The one who stayed. The one who shows up every day. That's what a father does. Blood doesn't change that." Rowan stared at his hands. Rough, scarred. Hands that had killed and protected and built. "I don't want to replace Thomas. You're not replacing anyone. You're just being here. That's enough." The next morning, Eli came down for breakfast. Looked at Rowan. Asked the question. Rowan crouched down, eye level. "You sure that's what you want?" "Yes." "It's not a small thing. Once you call someone Pa, that's what they are. Can't take it back." "I know. And you still want to?" "Yes." Rowan's eyes went bright. He blinked it back. "Okay then. Yeah, you can call me Pa." Eli threw his arms around Rowan's neck, held tight, and the man who'd spent 7 years building walls finally let them fall. 1 year became 2, 2 became 3, 3 became 5. The shop did well. Eli grew, shot up like a weed, losing that little boy's softness, started looking like Thomas around the eyes. But he had Rowan's steady temperament, the best of both men. Rowan taught him things. How to ride, how to fish, how to fix things with his hands, how to stand up when standing was hard. Not replacing Thomas, just being present, being there. And Mara learned to live again. Not just survive, actually live. She laughed more, smiled easier. The lines around her eyes came from joy instead of worry. She built friendships in town, became part of the community, stopped looking over her shoulder every time a stranger walked by. One evening, 5 years after Red Creek, she found Rowan on the porch, watching the sunset. He did that sometimes, just sat and watched the world turn. She sat beside him. "What are you thinking about?" "Nothing." "Liar." He smiled, slight but real. "Thinking about how I ended up here." "Regrets?" "No, surprises." "Good ones?" "Yeah, good ones." He looked at her. I thought I was done. After Sarah and Jacob, thought that was it, just existing until I didn't anymore. What changed? Kid knocked on my door, asked for help, and I couldn't say no. Best decision you ever made. Maybe. He was quiet a moment. I still miss them, Sarah, Jacob, every day. I know I miss Thomas too, probably always will. Does it get easier? No, but you get stronger, learn to carry it better, and you learn that loving again doesn't mean forgetting. It just means you're brave enough to risk your heart twice. They sat in comfortable silence. Inside, Eli was doing homework. Normal kid sounds. The sound of life continuing. Music drifted from somewhere down the street. Someone playing fiddle. Off-key but enthusiastic. A dog barked. Children laughed. All the sounds of a town settling in for evening. Thank you, Rowan said quietly. For what? For not letting me stay dead. Mara took his hand, rough and scarred and real. Thank you for pulling me out of the snow. Best decision I ever made. You already said that. Worth saying twice. The sun set. The stars came out. The world kept turning. And 3 people who'd almost died in that snow, who'd fought and bled and survived against odds that should have killed them, sat in the warmth of a home they'd built from ruins. Because that's what survival looks like. Not dramatic, not perfect, just people choosing to keep going, to build something instead of giving up, to find family in unexpected places. The frontier was hard, unforgiving. It took and rarely gave back. But sometimes, not often, but sometimes, it gave you a second chance. A knock on the door in the middle of a storm. A choice to help when it would be easier to turn away. And if you were very lucky, that choice became something more. Something that looked like healing. Like hope. Like home. Rowan Creed pulled Mara Whitlock out of the snow because a frightened boy asked him to. That single act changed all 3 of their lives. Not easily, not perfectly, but completely. And in the end, that was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. Years later, when Eli was grown with children of his own, he would tell them the story. How his mother fought an empire. How a lonely cowboy became a father. How 3 broken people built something that lasted. And his children would ask if it was true. And Eli would say yes. Every word. Because some stories aren't about being perfect. They're about being real. About showing up when it matters. About choosing to care when caring is dangerous. And sometimes, when you're very lucky, those choices echo forward. Into the future. Into lives not yet lived. Mara's shop stayed in the family for 3 generations. A testament to what one woman's courage built. The mine that killed Thomas was shut down permanently. Safety regulations were passed. Lives were saved because Mara refused to stay silent. And Rowan's cabin, abandoned for so many years, eventually became a place where lost travelers found shelter. Because word spread. About the man who'd lived there. Who'd saved a widow and her child. Who'd proved that even the loneliest people can find redemption. The frontier remembered them. Not as heroes. They would have hated that. But as people who'd faced impossible odds and refused to break. And maybe that's the only story worth telling. The one about ordinary people doing extraordinary things because someone needed them to. The one about choosing love over fear. The one about building homes from ruins. That story. Their story. The one that started with a knock on a door in a snowstorm and ended with a family.